Hey guys, it's Nick. Thanks for tuning in to Long Island Wargaming for a Skaven battle report. This is going to be Skaven versus Orcs and Goblins. We got Chris playing 3K with me, so we're doing some prep for our Brawlers lists. I made a little bit of changes to mine. Anyone that's been watching the development of mine, I essentially took out the Plague Monks entirely, gave the Storm Banner um, to the Storm Vermin, and then cut the Razor Banner out altogether. I'll see how it goes. And I took some of the extra points and took 2 Chieftains with Halberds, threw them into the Bell unit just to give them some extra fighty power, and we'll see how it goes. So for magic spells, I have the Grey Seer and the Engineer, level 1. I got Warp Lightning for the Engineer, and then for the Seer I got Death Frenzy, plus with Filth, Curse of the Horn Rat, and Wither. No Plague. Unfortunately, I do like to run Plague. However, the spells of Ruin are growing on me, so I'm thinking of readjusting some points, making that Engineer level 2 caster. This way I can get some Plague in there, because when I'm looking at this, not Plague, get some more Ruin spells in there. And Death Frenzy and Poison attacks is just a nice combo that's starting to grow on me, especially when I've got this big block of Storm Vermin. So I'm going to play a little bit more with Ruin. I'm going to try. Maybe even a Crack's Coal here and there might help. So Chris has Foot of Gork, Headbutt, Fists of Gork, Here We Go, Sneaky Stab, and Itchy Nuisance, and the Fiery Ring. So here's deployment. Let's talk it out. With Chris's list, it's very similar to what you usually see him bringing against me. He's got some Spear Chuckers in there to add some flavor, take up some points. He also has Trolls hiding in the back left. He always tends to have stuff to behind the deployment line, and I always give him shit for that because I know, look, his units take up a lot of space, but you got to get those 12-inch move trolls up real quick, but that's something he's working on. But in front of those trolls, he's got the pump wagon and some night goblins with 3 crazy guys, 3 fanatics. So you can notice that I do not have a proxy for my hell pit because I do have the second model being worked on, and these guys are covering my right flank entirely. They're going to go deal with those black orcs, which is going to be pretty interesting. The doom wheel is set up to maybe move right towards the pump wagon in the middle. This way I can zap him off the battlefield. I don't have to worry about that random move stuff hurting me. And it's a pretty tight for +1 to go first, but Chris ends up getting turn 1, which I'm okay with because he can move his stuff up and maybe my random move stuff will be in charge range. So we'll take a closer look here at my deployment just to go over a few more things. I do have a Warp Fire Thrower, which is new to this list. It's in a great position to deal with the trolls. The BSB is also in the Storm Vermin unit because I need the firing attacks to deal with the trolls. In the Bell unit, there's the Bonebreaker behind the bell, you can't see him, and then there's 2 Chieftains with Halberds, pretty basic. The Storm Vermin also have the Doomrocket Engineer and the Obsidian Lodestone Engineer, so I have a ton of heroes chilling out in all these units. Quick closer look at Chris's deployment. Look, he's got like 7 War Machines. The funny thing is I forget to use the Storm Banner his first turn, so I end up using it a second turn in case I forget to mention that later in the video. But, man, he's got a whole lot of shit coming at me, so we'll see how it goes. Here come the scouts. I decided not to do a slinking advance because of the Storm Banner. I figured I'd have a good chance of moving them up while the War Machines are going, but like I said, I forgot to use it first turn. But also it keeps these guys busy over here, and maybe I could go, I don't know, bother the Black Orcs, maybe cause a charge block, I don't know. So Chris gets turn 1. The other fast cav do a vanguard on the other side of the field, but I don't have a picture of that. And these guys decide to issue a charge onto the gutter runners. I do roll up 3 poisons, which is nice. He saves 1, and these 3 make it in. So here's Chris's movement, the classic fumble for the Savage Orcs where they fail Animosity. And everything else kind of moves up full. The Black Orcs and Squig Herd are really going to try to gun down the right flank pretty hard, so I'm a little nervous about that. And like I said before, I think Chris has got to really figure out what to do with those trolls because you need to keep them in leadership and BSB bubble, but at the same time, if they're not moving up 12, it's tough. But then again, maybe he didn't explain to me his strategy well enough, but he is keeping them out of the fire thrower range and the Storm Vermin at the moment, so... For Winds of Magic, Chris gets 6 dice, I get 4. He goes ahead and Irresistible Forces Foot of Gork with 4 6s. So he goes for the double Hell Pit Stomp. Good decision. but it sways all the way out 6 inches and doesn't hit anything, and then it stops. So I'm pretty happy. His irresistible force does a wound to something. It's not a big deal. So his shooting isn't as spectacular as it could have been. This Doom Diver does a wound to the Hellpit Abomination, and I'm pretty sure about one War Machine explodes a turn. So by the end of the game, he only has like 2 or 3 left. So for escaping turn 1, I decide, hey, I really need to just keep that freaking pump wagon at bay. So instead of taking the 2d6 attacks onto me, I'll go ahead and charge it. And not knowing this was going to happen because I didn't really measure it out, not even sure if it was going to be good or bad, but all of a sudden the fanatics come popping out. The one guy that does hit the unit rolls up 6 and kills 6 slaves. Both Hellpits decide to fall short, which is, oh well. And I do roll up these gutter runners to deal with the black orcs. I don't know why I didn't just start moving them toward the war machines. Total error. But I figured if I can get a flank charge in with the turn that the freaking hell pits charged in, I could kill some more guys. Because I'm a little nervous about this combat, to be completely honest. 2 black orcs fighting the hell pits could be a little messy, but they should have gone after the war machines. Again, I don't know why I did this, but I even forget to shoot with them, to be completely honest. So, error on my behalf. The Doom Wheel goes ahead and marches up to the freaking pump wagon, so I'll be able to zap that, which is great. And the Savage Orcs is so far behind, it's pretty good. So Winds of Magic is pretty shitty. We roll up, I get 5 dice, he gets 3. I roll Warp Lightning onto the pump wagon just to play it safe because I don't trust the Doom Wheel to do its job. Chris goes ahead and dispels it, which gives me a free shot at casting Bless with Filth onto these guys, which I thought was a good idea, but now that I'm thinking about it, it only lasts a turn, so there's going to be no combat unless he makes like a crazy charge to me. Which now he potentially can do, since the Doom Wheel decides to misfire and go straight up to be in front of the Savage Orcs, so he can get a nice little leapfrog jump to the clan rats, to the storm vermin, I should say. In combat, these slaves actually take no more wounds, but they do kill the pump wagon, which is beautiful. I do not move or overrun. I kind of want to sit here because anything trying to get to me will have to deal with the fanatics, and I'm quite okay with that. So after turn 1, I decided to pop over to a different table to see what was going on, and I figured I would share this picture with you. This is turn 1, and that's a dwarf army. It's heavily proxied, it's a mess, but ignoring that, this is turn 1, and this is a Vanguard spam, and Ryan has moved up dwarves 18 inches by the end of turn 1, which is wonderful. So he's up in this Empire's face. It's gonna be interesting. So for Orc turn 2, these fast cav Wolf Riders fail at Animosity, so they go up and make a move, and then they're forced to make a charge onto the flank of the slaves, because the slaves were closest, opposed to the clan rats, which you would have rather charged. The giant rats, you would have rather charged them. They were an inch or two further away when he failed the Animosity test, so he's going to go on the slaves instead of those giant rats, which he probably could have killed, and then probably went on to take out the cannon behind. So over here, Chris makes an all-in on this Hellpit Abomination, which is probably the best decision he could have made. Those squigs would have been an issue to deal with anywhere that they went. If he had marched them full at the bell and the slaves, that would have been problematic for me nonetheless, because it's just so many strength 5 attacks, and it's just messy. I mean, my heroes would have been great at dealing with them and doing a lot of combat res, but man, this is going to be a bit of a mess because he's got a lot of attacks going in through his hell pits. The Savage Orcs do go ahead and attack the Doom Wheel at the top right, and here's where the freaking Knife Goblin Fanatics end up. One of the 3 end up blowing up, the other one ends up killing one of these Wolf Riders, which is awesome. And the Pump Wagon stumbles forward a little bit. The trolls are picking up the rear, and they are now just in range of the Warp Fire Thrower. So, for magic, Chris gets 10 dice, I get 5, and he goes ahead, it rolls a Fireball at the Hellpit Abomination, but I do dispel it. He then goes for Foot and gets it off, but I scroll it. And then he goes ahead and tries to get Itchy Nuisance onto the Hellpit Abomination, and I don't remember if he gets it off or not, but I do try to dispel it, but losing my initiative is going to be messy. Nothing really happens in the shooting phase because of the Storm Banner. I roll up freaking Avalanche of Flesh, which is great. Surprisingly, with Initiative 3 and Initiative 2, Chris passes just about all of his freaking Initiative tests. Only a few get through, and even with my Strength 6 hits on them from the Initiative test, I don't kill as many as I could have. I think I killed like 3 guys. But I mean, it was nice because I do have a lot of surface area being covered. But nonetheless, I do the 2d6 and kill a couple Black Orcs. The Squigs go first and deal 5 wounds past the Hell Pit's regen, which is very doable. That's 20 attacks or like 25 attacks at strength 5, weapon skill 4. Those things are awesome. So hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, it's good. And then the Black Orcs finish him up with some great weapon attacks, and the Hell Pit is done. And the other Hell Pit is not immune to psychology, which means he actually fails his Leadership 8 test and turns around and runs away. So Chris Combat reforms everything, and now he's ready to take on the slaves and the giant rats and the bells. So this is not fun. So the Savage Orcs are able to not kill the Doom Wheel. They do 4 wounds. They couldn't do the 5th wound to knock it out, but you know it is toughness 6. I understand, but they overrun and try to chase the Doom Wheel, and they don't run very far. And the Doom Wheel gets past the Storm Vermin, which is great. So now his guys are in charge range. In this combat, these guys turn and run. I do another wound, so there's 3 left, but I restrain because I really don't want to expose a flank or do anything to mess up the slaves covering this side of the board for me. So, Skaven turn 2, I need to roll a 5 to get the Savage Orcs. I roll a 4, which is terrible. Terrible job with the Storm Vermin. They decide to stumble up 3 inches, which really screws me now because I don't know. That was just stupid. I charge these guys off the table with the giant rats. The gutter runners move ahead to shoot at the rock lava and possibly block march the black orcs. And here is the lay of the land. The rat darts can go up to redirect the squig herd so he doesn't get too close to my slaves. And the Hell Pit does rally, which is nice, so the Hell Pit has a turn to maybe get back into the action. And this rat dart to the left here in the middle of the board goes up to block the Pump Wagon from making a flank charge onto the flank or front charge onto the Storm Vermin. And then I do have the Engineer come out of the one of the units there to do the Doom Rocket attack. And I forget to do it this turn during shooting, which is a huge error because he's going to be able to kill the giant rats and then overrun into the Engineer that's chilling there, which would have been fine, but I decided to forget to shoot the Doom Rocket, which I was really upset about. So, Epic Magic Phase, I get 12 dice, Chris gets 7. I roll up Warp Lightning against the Pump Wagon again, but he dispels it. Chris dispels Death Frenzy on the Storm Vermin, because he doesn't want to deal with that. But he does let Bless with Filth through, so I do have Bless with Filth. And I go ahead and get Curse of the Horn Rat with my remaining 5 dice and Warpstone token with Irresistible Force, 3 6s. And we remove 16 Savage Orcs. Perfect. That's excellent. Can't ask for anything more. So I kill some Clan Rats with the Miscast, and I do a wound to both the Bell and the Greysteer. So in shooting, the Warpfire Thrower actually gets like all these guys. I cover all of them with the freaking template, and then we remember that the Storm Banner is going off and I rolled up my d6 to see if it fired, and it didn't. So I went from potentially erasing this unit to doing nothing to it. The Doom Wheel does fire, however, and zaps that Fanatic, and he's dead. The cannon just misfires and blows itself up. Gutter Runners actually get a poison attack, or 2 poison attacks through onto the Rock Lava, which is, okay. I don't even know if they could have gotten that now that I think about it, because it probably was 7s to hit. And at the end of my turn, after everything's done, we remember this guy, and, everyone pokes fun at me, but I'm like, Chris was like, well, I'll give it to you with the Doom Rocket. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of got to remember this stuff. And we play on without me shooting the Doom Rocket, which is nuts because I rolled up a hypothetical roll, and I would have killed, like, I don't know, about 10 more Savage Orcs, but oh well, live and learn. So for Chris's turn 3, he goes ahead and makes a charge here with the Goblins, avoiding the Fanatic. And a second charge here with the trolls, as per my recommendation, against the slaves, hitting the fanatic. And I told Chris, listen, it's D6, strength 5. Half of them are going to wound if he gets that many, and half of them are going to get regen. So even if you lose a wound or two, you're not going to lose a whole troll by good probability, and you get the trolls in combat too. And that's what happens. So here's the rest of the battlefield. The squigs go ahead and charge the giant rats, which is great. It's lined up so an overrun will not hit slaves. And the savage orcs do not charge. He decides to not charge at them to see if he could do another round of something to them. I don't know. Maybe some stone throwers and, make it all messy. The pump wagon charges the giant rats, and that should be it. Oh, and back to this, the Black Orcs are having a hard time doing anything because a reform might get screwed up with the Gutter Runners, but also he can't Swift reform because Chris decided not to bring a musician on the Black Orcs. So I get 5 dice, Chris gets 6 dice for Winds of Magic. He goes ahead and does a foot onto the Storm Vermin, which I'm not upset about because they have Magic Res 3, so I'll save half of them. It sways to hit the Giant Rats and some of the Storm Vermin. I'm okay with that. It hits 5 out of 6 Giant Rats, which I'm actually upset about because if he would have killed all of them, then the Pump Wagon would have been out of combat, but he only kills a handful of them. So he lands a second foot, which is nice. And then a third foot, which is nice again, so he's actually starting to dwindle away some of these storm vermin. But he fails to get another stomp, so I'm happy with that. One of the bolt throwers is actually able to get a flank shot onto the gutter runner, so he actually kills 2. They fail their leadership 7 check, and they flee through the black orcs. They don't fail any difficult terrain tests. However, this is pretty funny, because now they're in the way, and, he can't do anything. So maybe in my turn they will rally and stick, or maybe keep running. In combat, he goes ahead and kills all the giant rats, or at least the remaining ones, and makes it into combat with the Doom Rocket Engineer. And here's the battlefield. At the end of Chris's turn, you can see some slaves got dwindled away, but I got leadership 10 with the reroll because I'm within 18 inches of the bell, and I still have 3 ranks, so I don't care. And the squigs just combat reform after killing the giant rats. So here I'm going to issue a few charges. The Doom Wheel is going to go ahead and try to hit the Pump Wagon, and even the Bell Unit is going to go ahead and charge the Pump Wagon also. The Storm Vermin will charge the Black Orcs, the Savage Orcs I should say, that actually backed up last turn, so I still need to roll like a 5 or 6, so hopefully I can get it this time. And I get all the charges, so I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. On this side of the battlefield, the Hell Pit, which rallied last turn, is going to make a successful charge into the squigs. I have to do it. He doesn't have as many wounds left on him because he got shot up a couple times by war machines. And the gun runners did not rally, so they're still running away. Magic Phase was a bit upsetting. Chris denies both the poison attacks and the death frenzy onto the storm vermin, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult than I thought over there. In shooting, this decides to misfire. It has a clean shot into the combat with the slaves. He can kill a bunch of trolls, but he misfires and blows up. So that's it. I never have any good lucks with the warp fire throwers, so I got to figure out if I really want him in the list or not. I could probably do something else with the 75 points or 70 points, whatever it is. The storm vermin, they take 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wounds, which is pretty awesome. Usually I take a lot more damage from the Savage Orcs, but I was able to do alright here, so I kill 5 guys there, so I end up losing combat, even with the BSB in the charge and my extra ranks, but who cares, I'm leadership 10, or actually leadership 9 with a reroll, but I'm stubborn because I got more ranks, so oh well. A lot was hinging on winning this combat, that's why poison attacks or death frenzy would have been great, because if I would have destroyed this unit, I would have ran over to the bunker unit and killed the level 4 general, which would have scored me a whole bunch of points. No surprise here, this guy ends up dying. The squigs are great at dealing with Hell Pit Abominations, so I gotta make sure I pay close attention to that in future games against Chris and or Orcs and Goblins in general. But I kill a few of them, and, oh well, but he does not come back either. In this combat, the Doom Rocket Engineer dies because he's the one that takes all the impact hits, and the Pump Wagon has no chance whatsoever of surviving. So he's dead too. So Chris's turn 4, I took this picture here just to show you that I think it's hilarious that Chris doesn't know what the hell he's doing with his infantry sometimes. I like to make fun of him because he didn't take a position and he can't swift reform and get them in a nice direction and marching, or moving I should say. But these guys are now stuck behind the gutter runners because of the positioning, and the Black Orcs are just kind of making their way around. They're still at full strength. I mean, they can cause some issues. That's why I'm glad that they're not up in front, but Chris always runs into these issues where he's got these big hordes that he doesn't always get into combat right away because they just take up so much space. So I don't know. I'm not always into the horde play. I know I've got Skaven, so bus formation is nice, but I don't know. Hordes just take up space sometimes, especially when they are orc-sized bases. So, but here's just the rest of the battlefield. Not too much moving going on. He should have moved the bunker back. I think he forgot to do that. But you know what? At this point in the game, what is 2 inches really going to do? So Chris bluffed me without even knowing it. He actually surprised himself. He threw all of his first round of dice at a really good spell. It was either foot or something else that would have changed the game. And I threw my dispel dice at it, not really caring about any other spells he has. And all of a sudden he's looking through his remaining cards because he's got like a dice or two. I think he's got 1 dice left because he's 6 dice to spell. And he's like, oh, itchy nuisance. He's like, I'm going to cast this into the Storm Vermin. I was like, okay, what does it do? And it's like, removes leadership, or removes initiative, reduces it by D3 or D6 or whatever. So he rolls it up on 1 dice, and he actually gets the Storm Vermin down to match the initiative of the Orcs, which is 2, which is not good. So I'm going to be striking at the same time as his guys, and I'm just not really happy about that. So I kill 6 guys, he peels off a whole rank. I lose combat, but I still have 1 more rank than he does, so I am stubborn with leadership 8 with a reroll. So I failed the first one, but I passed the second one, so I'm still there fighting, but these Stormvermin are in trouble. So Skaven turn 4. So this is the point where my Stormvermin are dying. I've got 2 full strength units over here to my right. The slaves, as you can see, are getting down to the point where they're no longer leadership 10, and now they're out of the range of the BSB, so they're not rerollable. So you know what? I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know what, this is going to be a Brawler's Bash game. It doesn't matter how much I lose, it's how much my opponent loses, because I need victory points. So I make a flank charge here. I needed a 9, and I rolled it up, and I got it. I decided, you know what, who cares? We'll all in. Even if the bell overruns and hits the forest and blows up, I need to go get some points. So this is going to be awesome. The slaves go ahead and move up just in case the trolls do get out of combat. We could, block them up a little bit more. And I'm pretty excited about this. So the gutter runners still keep running because they suck. But we're going to move into magic. And this is what happens. And this has never happened with me ever before. And I'm super excited to share it with you. I rolled a 17 on the bell chart, which is epic. Totally epic. So what happens is anyone within 12 inches gets to move up d6 inches, which is, alright, whatever. The slaves move up a couple inches. But the killer thing is all models within 24 inches get +1 attack, which turns around that Savage Orc combat to maybe a loss to a sure victory. Because not only do I get +1 attack, I get to reroll missed hits and missed wounds. So I'm in a good position here. So I'm going to destroy all these squigs, hopefully knock out all those Savage Orcs. It's going to be awesome. Definitely really cool. I had to roll 2 6s, so I had to, I got doubles on the bell chart, so I have to take a few wounds on the Clan Rat, but who gives a shit. And yeah, so I've never rolled it before. I've never rolled triple 6s. That's when the bell just explodes, but pretty awesome. Pretty cool.
But it's bullshit that only the Skaven get to do this.
So in Magic, I go ahead and get Curse of the Horned Rat off. I have the Black Orcs real close to me, and kill a whole bunch of them. So he's down to, looks like 12 guys, or 22 guys, and then the little caster on the bottom. Oh my goodness, someone please convince me why I should still have this thing on my list. I've got slaves fighting trolls, and it misfires a second time. I can't kill a single freaking one. It's so annoying. The Doom Wheel does not shoot. I took a leadership test because the Storm Vermin are closest. The Doom Wheel was trying to clip the Savage Orcs, which I thought I was able to do, and then I rolled low, I didn't get it, and then he got the D6 move from the bell, and it was going to get in, but at that point, it was a little controversy between whether I was going to get him in or not based on the original move, so I just kind of let it go. I mean, I feel like I'm already in a good place, so I wasn't going to really fight it. But I'm not out of the clear yet. You could see Chris has a whole handful of dice. Remember, I'm still fighting at initiative 2 with the orcs and goblins. So the savage orcs could still pretty much knock me out of the park here and kill me, but I do all right. I still have a rank and a handful of guys. So I'm happy. And there's one savage orc left. Hooray. He did end up doing more wounds to me, though, which means I didn't win combat. It's either a tie or I lost by one, and, I'm stubborn, so I'm happy. Over here, I go ahead and kill a whole bunch of squigs. So they're all dead, and they scatter and kill a whole bunch of black orcs and a whole bunch of clan rats, but, oh well. They also finish killing some of the gutter runners that are nearby, so he gets points for that, which is cool. So we've got the Black Orcs left, and I decided to go for an overrun into the forest with the bell. Luckily it doesn't explode, but I don't quite make it, which might be a good thing because I'm no longer charging his front. He's going to be able to flank charge me, which means he won't be able to attack the bell, which Black Orcs are good at doing with their strength of 7 attacks, and he won't be able to kill the Gracier. So, oh well. So the slaves are finally killed by the goblins and the trolls go ahead and combat reform to see the storm vermin, which is a little bit unnerving because, I mean, there is one savage orc left, so I'll be able to kill him and get the points for the unit, but having these guys in my rear, I'm not really looking forward to. But at the same time, I do have, flaming attacks, so hopefully that helps. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So, Orcs and Goblins turn 5. Krista goes ahead and makes this charge into the forest, and he flanks charge the bell. And this is where Chris gets a little upset because he goes ahead and fails his stupidity test with the trolls, so they are not able to attack this turn. You see that he goes ahead and foots the Doom Wheel here, so he goes ahead and kills it. And he rolls up a 1 for the second stomp, in which case I can drop the template on every model in this unit. At which point Chris says, alright, I give up. The caster already has a wound on him, so he's only got 2 wounds left, and he doesn't have a ward save on him, so I ended up doing a wound to him here, and we didn't remove the models here, but I pretty much kill all of the goblins. A quick roll here just to see what happens. Nothing happens. The 2 chieftains, which are easily killable with the choppas and whatever weapons Chris would have decided to use, and then the Bonebreaker Lord and the Mount, they go first. So it's a handful of attacks, strength 5. It was just, not good. So we pulled off a bunch of guys there. So I end up walking away in a pretty good position. I get points for everything except the goblins and the trolls. I get half the points for Black Orcs, and I don't get points for some of the war machines. But I get points for all that bunker unit because, the way we planned it out was I kill the Savage Orc in his turn, and then in my turn I go ahead and kill the unit and charge it. Even if he flees, he wouldn't be able to get points for it. So, yeah, I walk away with a nice chunk of points. We're just going to go ahead and say, I don't know, 3,000. We didn't actually add it up, but with additional stuff, killing general, killing this, getting banners, he does have a chunk of stuff left, but I probably would have made up the points. So I think this list could work, as long as I'm playing it aggressive enough. And the hell pits, of course, get in. I see them over there on the right flank, and I'm like, I did nothing this game. So I gotta make sure. I've been very liberal with my hell pits because I'm just like, they rock and roll. Who gives a shit? But I think there is some strategy involved with them, making sure that they have the right matchups. In most of my games, they've just gone for it and they've done fine. But, avoiding flaming, of course, but avoiding units that have, decent initiative or like the freaking squigs, weapon skill 4, strength 5. They're hitting me on 3s, wounding me on 4s. He's got 20 attacks. He's going to get a good chunk of them through. So, but I'm pretty happy this game. I finally got to see the Storm Vermin in combat. Not as good as I was hoping. I mean, I know the Savage Orcs have a lot of attacks, and I mean you're not going to see that volume of attacks from a horde unless you're fighting Savage Orcs or maybe Witch Elves or something, but usually the Dread 13th will help me dwindle it down, and the Doom Rocket if I actually fire it for once. So some changes I might make, and feel free to please list your opinions below. Get rid of the Warfire Thrower and just put something else in. Maybe even a Doom Flare. Wouldn't that be funny? I mean, Initiative 4, Artillery Dice Attack Strength of 4. I don't know, could be interesting. It's more aggressive, I mean, I feel like the warp fire thrower is more of a defensive weapon. It is flaming, though. I understand that, but even with the storm banner in conjunction with that, I wasn't able to fire one turn, and then the other two turns it did fire, it misfired. So I'm still gonna have to discuss that with myself and anyone else willing to tell me I'm wrong or right. I have those two chieftains with halberds. They're cheap. They're like 48 points, 46 points. They're just there for a couple attacks at strength 5, initiative 5, or initiative 6. I forget. But if I drop one of them, I could make the Warp Block Engineer level 2, which will give me some more diversity with spells, but also allowed me to roll in Ruin and feel good about rolling in Ruin because hopefully there's a chance I get some doubles and pick a spell that I want. So yeah. And the next battle report, I'm going to take a little break and do a smaller game, 2500. I'm going to take out the dwarves, do some interesting list. It's just going to be whatever. But I'm going to play against Warriors of Chaos, and that'll be coming up soon. But, don't forget, Skaven rule. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. So the Skaven will be back after next game, and see you guys in the next video.